بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما يقربنا إليك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل وعلمنا الحكمة. اللهم يسر ولا تؤثر وتمم علينا بالخير. اللهم يسر ولا تؤثر وتمم علينا بالخير. اللهم يسر ولا تعسر وتمم علينا بالخير. وبك نستعين يا فتاح يا فتاح يا فتاح. وبعد. So last time we had started the chapter on fasting, Kitab al-Sawm, and we were just I think we had only talked about the different types, different potential types of fasting, and one ruling that changes based on the type is when you can make the niyyah. When's the end of the time of the niyyah? Just a quickly review before we move on. Um, and this is not as detailed as other works like Nur al-Idah. They'll break it down much more. I mean, Imam Shambhali, for example, and others break it down much more in those works. But here he says, remember he first divided Psalm into wajib and nafil. I think we did we make a chart for this? Or maybe we didn't. I don't know if we had the board. But he breaks the Psalm down into wajib and nafil. And then we further broke down the wajib into two types. I mean, that's what Imam al-Qudoori rahimahullah says. And then he has one type of nafil, and then we have different rulings for the niyyah. So let's just quickly I think we did this chart before. But let's just quickly do it again. So I have a som, then you have al-wajib and a nafil, and then the wajib breaks down into two types, which was that which is like I'm just gonna write in English, but time bound, I guess, or time specified to a certain time. And the other is time is unspecified. And then for the nafil, we only had he didn't break it down at all. So let's just do these two first. So the time specified one was the, so the examples. Well, I'm not gonna write the examples on the chart, but it was like fasting in Ramadan or fasting doing a fast that someone vowed. They vowed to fast a certain date or a certain time. So whether or not it's conditional. So, you could either say, oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I pass this test, then I'm going to fast on the 20th of Shawwal or something like that. Or it doesn't have to have the passing the test. And I just say, oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I vow to fast on the 20th of Shawwal. So that's another al-mu'ayyan, time specified vow. So either one of these, whether it's fasting in Ramadan or fasting for a specified vow, that just requires niyyah up to ad-dahwat al-kubra. And I'm going to write that term specifically because even though in the text it says zawal, we explained during the class that it really means the dahwat al-kubra, which is not the same as zawal. Zawal is basically just before Salatul Dhuhr time, and the dahwat al-kubra is so az-zawal. Then remember what's the difference between az-zawal and the dahwat al-kubra? If anyone wants to volunteer. I think we had done some examples, I think, about calculating them. So Zawal was halfway between Fajr and sunset. So that's the Shadri day is between Fajr and sunset. Then we have also the Urfi day, what we normally refer to as the day in everyday life, which is not from Fajr to sunset, it's rather from sunrise to sunset. So Dahwat al-Kubra is halfway between a sunrise and sunset. So sometimes it can be significantly before the Zawal time, even like 30, 40 minutes sometimes, or depending on where you are in the world and what time of year it is. So someone can, for one of these time specified wajib or fard fasts, I remember wajib here means fard or wajib, then they can make their niyyah up until the Hatul Kubra. If the time is unspecified, then it's it's more strict, and they have to have it from before Fajr. So before Fajr, they have to have the niyyah for this kind of fast. What's a what's an example of a wajib or fard fast that's not specified? The time's not specified. I mean, it's in the text as well somewhere. Yeah. So he gives some examples here that like making up a Ramadan fast. There's no specific time that you have to make up your Ramadan fast. Give me 1 second. I have to take this tea bag out of the tea. So the examples he gives are like making up a Ramadan fast because that's not at a specific time. And the other example he gives is a vowed fast that you didn't specify a certain time. So I just swear I vow to fast 2 days, a full fast. So that means that's now wajib upon me, but I can do it any day. It doesn't matter which day I do it because I didn't specify. And he says al kafarat. So that we talk about the various different types of kafarat in the Quran and the Sunnah. So if you have to fast for a kafara for expiation, oh, the audio got a lot lower. Let's, is it still low?
It
Yeah,
sounds the
it
same to
was
me.
pretty loud before, but now it's we can still hear you, but it's just a lot lower. I don't know if you did anything different.
I don't think so. That's strange. Let me just see if I can adjust the setting.
It's still the same for me. Oh,
Yeah, same
really?
for me
Oh,
as well.
okay.
Okay, yeah, maybe
Oh,
it's
okay.
something on
Never
your
mind
device.
then. It's just a
Yeah.
me problem.
Okay. No
Okay,
problem.
never mind.
Yeah, so yeah, like we're making up Ramadan fast or one of these other things for this you must have the niyyah before Fajr time. If Fajr time starts and you didn't have the niyyah, then you can't make it this sort of fast. So then you can make it a nafil fast though, as we'll see. So the nafil fast, the ruling is the same as this one. So wajib specified and any nafil fast have the same ruling, which is that you can make the niyyah all the way up to a dahwat al-kubra. And the one that's more strict is it's wajib or fard, but it's not specified at a certain time. Like the main example is making up Ramadan fast, but also kafara and this the bowed and stuff like that. But the main thing that most people will deal with is making up a Ramadan fast that has that rule. It must be intention must be from the night. I mean, from the night meaning before Fajr time. Anyway, it doesn't have to be right before Fajr time, right? You can just make the intention before you sleep, and then you have the intention. Even if you didn't wake up at all before Fajr, you would be fine. I think okay, so yeah, yeah. He says the same thing for Qabla Zawal again. Az-Zawal always means for us, for our purposes here, Al-Dahwat al-Kubra. Actually, I didn't check if Imam al-Quduri, I didn't check his other works to see if there's a good reason why he's saying Zawal instead of Dahwat al-Kubra. Usually what you see in these late commentaries that we use, they just say, oh, here what he said Zawal, but he meant Dahwat al-Kubra. But then, I mean, he's not so early that we didn't have, like they obviously had the concept of Dahwat al-Kubra. Um, so it seems like in the books of Imam Muhammad, they say Qabla nisf al-nahar, before half of the day. Um, so what is the fasting day? Like when does it start and end?
Fajr to start of Fajr to sunset.
Yeah, so then an-nahar al-shar'i is yeah, so we're fasting an-nahar al-shar'i, Fajr to sunset. And because of that, it makes sense to use Dahwat al-Kubra for fasting because Dahwat al-Kubra is halfway through the fasting day. Oh, actually, it's the opposite. Never mind, because that's Zawal, not a Dahwat al-Kubra. It's actually interesting why it's the opposite. And then we have an-nahar al-urfi, the like normal day that we use in like our normal parlance, and that is from sunrise to sunset. So it would be interesting to see if there's other riwayat in the madhab, but I haven't really like looked into it. But I do have Imam al-Quduri's commentary on the Mukhtasar al-Karhi. We can take a quick look and see if he says anything about that. if this is the right volume. الدخول في الصوم. I mean, even in here, he's saying Zawal, Imam al-Qadari. He's using that term. It's also possible that they use the term Zawal had a wider usage in that time period. I don't know. Because when we say Zawal, we always mean a very specific meaning. I mean, I don't see anything right now. I'll have to look at it later. I don't want to use up class time. Um, so yeah, we have the I guess what you call it the civil day or something like that, which is sunrise to sunset, and then we have the Shar'i day, which is Fajr to sunset. So we talked about this last time, but basically, yeah, the intention has to be made before Ad-Dahwat al-Kubra. Now he's gonna start all this moon sighting stuff. So for us specifically, I mean, people who don't live in a Muslim country, moon sighting is kind of a hotly contested issue, and the main reason for that, I think, as we meant, I think I started mentioning last time, is because there's no authority. Normally, if you're in like a Muslim country or somewhere with some Islamic authority, like Islamic endowment department, like a lot of governments have, then they just tell you when Ramadan is, and then you do it. There's nothing else to it. And in fact, you're bound to follow the jurisdiction of the Qadi in that country, and or whoever takes the place of the Qadi, which is like uh, which includes like departments of Awqaf. They'll have all these Arab countries have the Awqaf department, the endowments department. So that's basically taking the ruling of a Qadi. So you must follow them. If they say it's Ramadan, then it's Ramadan. Now, there are situations in which like for a fact that they were wrong and when they started Ramadan. Um, if it's late, then we could talk about making things up, making up an extra day. But if it's early, then I mean, there's nothing really you have to do if they started early. But now let's read the rules first, and then we'll come back to all these other issues that can come up. So he says, وقال الإمام أبو الحسين أحمد بن محمد القدوري رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا الله بعلومه وبركاته في الدارين آمين. I keep forgetting. It's not Abu. Yeah, it is Abu Hussein. I keep forgetting which one's right and which one's wrong. Yeah, Abu Hussein. Abu Hassan is the wrong one, right? I believe. I keep mixing the two up. I mean, I was just looking at the cover of the Sharh Mukhtasar al-Kalki, but uh, even that's not a good way to tell. So,
Mine, mine says
go ahead.
Hussein.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I said mine says Hussein.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's right from what I remember. Also, let me just mute this. Okay, so now let's start to read what he says. قال رحمه الله. وينبغي للناس أن يلتمسوا sorry, I think someone has the mic on. Oh, it's off now. وينبغي للناس أن يلتمسوا الهلال في اليوم 29 من شعبان فإن من شعبان نعم فإن رأوه صاموا وإن غم عليهم أكملوا no, here's أكملوا would be the Amr, right? This is not Amr, this is just Madi. أكملوا عدة شعبان 30 يوما ثم صاموا. Okay, so here it's the 29th of Shaban. What are people supposed to do? He says that people should go out and see the moon. He just says should here, yambaghi. Yambaghi oftentimes it can mean a lot of different things. So yeah, it's a good term to know. Yambaghi in books of fiqh can sometimes mean yajibu, like it can mean it's wajib. Sometimes they even use it to mean fard. So yaftarid or something like that. Yaftaridu. And then sometimes it only means mustahab, like mustahabbu. So it has like a very wide usage, and sometimes just like sunnah, yasunnu, yusannu. So you have to when you see it anywhere, you have to look in commentaries and see what exactly did this author mean by yambaghi. So here it would be yajib. Here it's wajib. So You can write that down that here means al-wujub. Because they have to go out to sight. Somebody has to go out to sight the moon, or at least some group of people have to go out to sight the moon. Because if they don't, then nobody's going to know when the month ended and started. So, but we would say al-wujub al-kifaya. Since someone tell me what does it mean for something to be fard kifaya?
Communal obligation.
Yeah, so as long as some people do it, then nobody is sinful. So same thing here. It's wajib al-kifaya. So that means if some people do it, then the wajib is taken care of, and the other people aren't sinful. But if nobody does it, then everyone will be sinful, the whole community, for not having done it. I mean, everyone who's able to do this would be sinful because they didn't do it and nobody else did it either. So he says, وَيَنْبَغِي لِلنَّاسِ. So it's wajib for people to go out and try to see the moon. Yotemisu can mean a lot of different things. Here it basically just means they're looking for the moon, trying to find it. Al-Hilal meaning the moon, but Al-Hilal specifically, the crescent moon. But then Al-Hilal is also used as a broader term. It doesn't all it can mean it doesn't have to mean the crescent, right? But here in this context, that's what we mean. So they're looking for the crescent of the new month, which means the waxing crescent, right? Not the waning crescent. The waning crescent is the previous month's moon going away. So they're looking for it on the 29th of Sha'ban. Of course, it has to be on the 29th of Sha'ban because if you do it on the 28th, then of course the month can't be 28 days, right? A month can only be 29 or 30 days. There's no other possibility for the lunar month. Um, so you go look for it on the 29th before Maghrib basically, or a little depending on when the moon set and the sunset is. There's all these different things about moon sighting that I don't think we'll get into here. But 29th of Sha'ban, and if they see it, if these people see the moon, then they fast. So here, is he going to talk about the? Okay, he's going to talk about different numbers and stuff. Okay, so let's leave it for now. So that's just saying that this is assuming it was a clear day. They saw the moon, everything's fine, right? Because they saw the moon, so now it's Ramadan. If they didn't see the moon, then what happens? Then we just go one more day, and it's 30 days of Sha'ban, and now we have one day. The next day will be Ramadan. So that's what he says here, and he's going to give a few more scenarios. Let's read the scenarios first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Now that was assuming it's clear. Now what if it's not clear a day? What if it's cloudy or something like that? وإن غم عليهم أكملوا عدة شعبان 30 يوما ثم صاموا. So if it becomes cloudy or unclear the sky, then that means they're definitely not gonna be able to see the moon, right? So that means they didn't see it on the 29th night. So what they do is أكملوا عدة شعبان. They complete Sha'ban as 30 days, 30 يوما, and then they fast, of course, the next day, the first of Ramadan, which is after the 30th of Sha'ban. Okay, so that this is all assuming there was a group. What if only one person saw it? He was alone and no one else saw it. Then how he talks about that. وَمَنْ رَأَى هِلَالَ رَمَضَانَ وَحْدَهُ صَامَ وَإِنْ لَمْ يَقْبَلَ الْإِمَامُ شَهَادَتَهُ. So first of all, if one person sees if people see the moon, especially if someone's alone, they're not in a group, then they're supposed to go and tell the Qadi. Then the Qadi will say either accept his sighting or he'll reject it. Maybe based on like how experienced is he? Does he know what he's doing? Did he just see some other planet or something? He thought it was the moon, which is common, like Venus or something. Even though it doesn't look like the moon, but still, if someone's not an experienced sighter, and probably most of us are not, right? Then it wouldn't be hard to make a mistake like that. So if he rejects their side, he might reject their side and he might accept it. If he accepts it, then he's going to tell the whole community, and now the whole community will follow it. If he rejects it, that's what he discusses here. What if he rejects it? So I saw the moon, and the Qadi said, no, you didn't see it, but I believe I saw it. I'm sure about it. Then what happens then? So now that he's going to say, what should this guy do? The guy who actually saw the moon, even though the Qadi didn't accept his shahada. I mean his witnessing of the moon. So he says, whoever saw the moon of Ramadan alone, the moon of Ramadan means, the first moon of Ramadan, then he'll still fast. He still fasts himself because he saw the moon. So as far as he knows, as far as what he believes, it is Ramadan. So he will fast even if it's only him. And it says, وَإِنْ لَمْ يَقْبَلَ الْإِمَامُ شَهَادَةً. Even if the imam didn't accept his testimony for sighting the moon. And of course, the imam, or it means the qadi or the sultan or whoever, like an authority figure who has authority to accept or reject people's testimony. But remember, it doesn't mean that the person's not trustworthy. I mean, that might be a reason why he rejects the sighting, right? He might say, "Oh, this guy is just like a known fasik liar or something, so we're not going to accept his moon sighting, and he's the only one who saw it, coincidentally, right? Like, I mean, suspiciously." But it could just be this guy's really trustworthy, and like everyone loves him, and he's like a upstanding member of society. But the problem is that he he's not an experienced sighter, or he has bad vision, or whatever. Like, there's could be so many reasons why the judge says no, we're not accepting this. So anyway, this person still fast himself, even if the authority doesn't accept his testimony. And remember that what in lam yakbal, this means even if. So this is in wasliya, which basically makes it the same as low. We say low in the same meaning as low in wasliya, even though or even if. Okay, now what kind of sighting will we accept on a very cloudy day or some day that has some obstruction in the view? Because before they said that, oh, if it became cloudy, nobody saw the moon, they complete 30. What if it was cloudy and some people did claim to see it? Now what do we do? So وإذا كان في السماء علة قبل الإمام شهادة الواحد العدل في رؤية الهلال رجلا كان امرأة حرا كان أو عبدا. So now he's talking. Now we're going to talk about how many people do we need to accept a shahada, to accept the testimony about moon sighting. So he says if there is some obstruction or something, whether it's it could be like cloudiness, it could also be like some sandstorm or something. It could be anything that blocks the sky so they can't see it, including pollution, right? There's a lot of light pollution or a lot of actual smog or something. All these things would be things that stop us from seeing the moon properly. Then the imam will accept. So kabila, the imam will accept the testimony of only one trustworthy person that he saw the moon. So the reason that we're taking a lesser number here than we might normally is because it's cloudy, so it's cloudy or whatever, so we don't expect this huge group to see it. Maybe this guy, if he's trustworthy, then we'll believe him that okay, he was standing out in an open area, and the clouds are moving, right? It's windy, the clouds are moving, so he happened to see the moon when the sky was clear in that area. So the imam accepts his testimony. Of course, it's saying the imam accepts his testimony doesn't mean the imam has to accept it, right? It's just saying that the imam can accept his testimony. He obviously has to take other things into consideration because this person um, has like good eyesight and things like that. So al-adl, I guess I don't know. I guess we did see it before, but al-adl is a trustworthy person, and usually what the definition is that he avoids major sins. And even if he sometimes commits minor sins, he's not doing them publicly continuously all the time. So that's like someone trustworthy. There's another definition that they give here, which is basically he's just his good works and his good deeds are more than his bad deeds, or someone who's generally known to be righteous, like and also they like in like a murder trial, for example, the judge would probably apply a stricter standard than he would in like a moon sighting, for example. So that's all that is taken into account, but these are just basic definitions that I'm giving you. Anyway, sorry, he said, I didn't even finish reading this. He said that, well, the judge will accept the testimony of one upright person in viewing the moon, and then he makes sure to say whether it's a man or a woman, whether he's free or a slave. So why do you think he added that in? The man, the gender, and like whether they're free or a slave or not.
I think because it is uh, one testimony for women. It is. This is the reason.
Yeah, so only one
Otherwise,
person
you
we
need
need, even though in other issues we might need one man and two women or two men, et cetera, all these different combinations they have. But here, one man or one woman is fine for testimony. And also because in other cases like the had punishments, sometimes for many of those, or for all those, I think we only accept men's testimony, not women. And we also accept only free people's testimony, not slaves. So, and then the other things, or there's at least one or two scenarios in which we only accept women's and not men's testimony, which is things to do with like childbirth to confirm that, okay, this woman, because usually only women would be around when a woman gave birth to a child. So they'd say, okay, for this, we're going to accept the woman's testimony only because we don't expect the man to have been there. So, there's different combinations, right, that we could have. But here it's any one person who's adil, who's trustworthy, whether he's free, slave, man, woman, doesn't matter. The judge has the latitude to accept it. He doesn't have to, of course, because he always has some discretion. So, yeah, so the reason they gave here is because this is a matter of, this is Amr Dini, this is a matter of deen, so it's kind of like, it resembles transmitting akhbar, like transmitting statements or news or anything, like stuff like that, in which we do accept, one trustworthy person, whether it's a man or a woman or a slave or a free person. Also here, I see the hand 1 second. Also here, we do accept, in many types of shahada, of testimony, the person has to say, I bear witness, I testify, ashhadu. But here they say that we have a lower standard. They don't need to testify. They just need to say, I saw the moon, I ra'aytul hilal, or something like that. It doesn't have to be more than that. Go ahead.
So, is there any difference between the testimony of a slave and a free man?
Yes, in like in had punishments, we don't take the testimony of a slave because they're trying to for HUD punishments, they're basically making it as strict as possible and only accepting one type of testimony. So, a slave, there's a possibility that, okay, the master is telling him what to say or coaching, like even if it's just a small possibility. So then they say, okay, we're only going to accept a free person for like a HUD punishment. But then in other types of testimony, a slave can testify. And well, inshallah, we'll be covering, other types of testimony as well. There's actually one chapter just for testimony in all books of fiqh. So we have to have adala here. We have to have trustworthiness here because a fasiq, someone who's not adal, someone who's not um, trustworthy, then his statements and his claims are not accepted in matters of deen. And this is a matter of a deen. This is a matter of deen, right? So citing the moon for Ramadan because the fasting depends upon that. So similarly, like, okay, like, oh, this guy tells you this is halal meat or not. That's also like an amr dini. It's a matter of deen, so we only accept from trustworthy people, not from a fasiq. And so if someone tells you which way is the qibla, or someone tells you that water is tahir for wudu. These are all matters, these are all like umur diniya. They're all matters of deen. So in this, we only accept from trustworthy people. There's other matters in which it's allowed to accept testimony from, not testimony, like allowed to accept information from someone who's not trustworthy. For example, um, like, in sales and things like that. Like, this guy tells you this is how much I paid for it. And I'm taking this much profit on it, so you pay me this much. And if you accept his word, you accept his word. Like, it's not like you can't. But here in these dini matters, you cannot accept the word of anyone unless they're trustworthy. Or if you have some other evidence to support what they're saying. Okay. That's also why we always say that, like a doctor who you're going to ask them, can I fast this Ramadan or not? Because, I'm pregnant or I am sick or this and that. Like a doctor or somebody that you ask, they also have to be adil, they have to be trustworthy. And of course, that means first of all, they have to be Muslim. And then after that, they have to be trustworthy. Or someone who says, oh, you can't make sujood in prayer. Like the doctor's telling you that. So again, they have to be trustworthy and adil because otherwise this is a matter of deen, so we can't take it from someone otherwise. Of course, if a non-Muslim doctor tells you that, you can still take that information that he gives you to the mufti or someone, and then they can decide whether you can act upon it or not. But to directly take someone's word, they have to be in a matter of deen, they have to be adil, they have to be trustworthy in the Shari'i sense. Okay, so we just said that if there is an obstruction in the sky for some reason they can't see the moon, then he can accept one person's testimony. But what if it's a clear night and then one person comes? So he says, فإن لم يكن في السماء علة لم تقبل الشهادة حتى يراه جمع كثير يقع العلم بخبرهم. So it's a clear night, the sky is clear, or night, or right before Maghrib, etc. Depending, sometimes you can see the moon then too. So it's clear, right? So then he says, the testimony will not be accepted unless a large group of people sees it. And then this is the description. This is like a tafsir of what a large group means. يَقَعُ الْعِلْمُ بِخَبَرِهِمْ. That based on the testimony of this large group, we get very strong, we get reasonable certainty. So, ilm here, ilm, a lot of times when we say ilm in Aqidah, it means like yaqeen, it means like absolute certainty. We don't mean that here. We mean ghalabat al-dhann, which means, reasonably certain. Like it is possible that this whole big group decided, oh, we don't want to fast, so or we want to fast a day early, so we're all going to lie to the qadi. I mean, it's possible, but it usually doesn't happen. So in any society, so that's why we say we have reasonable certainty. If a big group comes and they all say that, oh, we all saw the moon, and it's a clear sky, then we're going to accept it. But if one person comes, two people come, and they said, oh, we saw the moon, and it was a completely clear day, it's like we expect that a lot of people should have been able to see it, then that would be a problem, and we wouldn't accept that testimony. Again, this is all assuming that we're in an area in which we can even see and not full of light pollution and all that. But that would be the normal case in the pre-modern time, right? Because there's no reason that a big group should not have seen it. Should like a big group should have seen it. That's why we're only taking from a large group. Now, what exactly does it mean, a large group? That's something we need to talk about here. So al-jam' al-kathir. So here it says al-jam' al-kathir. Another term they use is jam' al-ghafir. That's a similar meaning, but you'll see it in like if you read any articles or debates or anything on moon sighting, you'll see all these terms. So it's good to be aware of them. So jam' al-ghafir, jam' al-kathir, what does it mean? So basically in Zahir riwayah, there's no specific number given to this. Can someone remind us what is Zahir riwayah?
Is it five major books that compiled together that kind of summarize?
So I wouldn't call it summarized, but yeah, it's the five major books of Imam Muhammad in which he basically recorded or compiled the rulings of Abu Hanifa. So basically compiled the madhab. So let's do a quick review of that since that term comes up over and over, right? Zahir riwayah. By the way, there's an English book that came out recently about like intro to the madhab type of thing, and it has this kind of information. I was thinking we should cover it sometime. What is it called? I was trying to remember who's the author again.
Called Introduction to the Hanafi Madhab by Sheikh Farhan Zuberi.
Okay, let me look. I'm just gonna send a link right now, so before I forget. Because I know I think he has like other introductory books on all kinds of different disciplines or something, but I haven't actually seen them in person. But I'll just send this, and this could be like if maybe we can do this in the summer or something as like an extra thing. Let me see how many pages this is. 124 pages, probably yeah. So it's quite short actually, and it's in English, so like it'll be just everyone can read it on their own, and then we just go do like an overview type of thing. Because that would also like then you'd actually have a source for this. Like, oh, when you need to look up what's Zahir riwayah, you just open this book and it tells you basically. I sent a link, but okay, it's not giving the preview. Anyway, so Zahir riwayah as a review are we're gonna say five books of Imam Muhammad. So five. I mean, you'll usually see it says six books. Anyway, it's not a big deal, but one of those books seems to be part of the other books, which is why I was saying five instead of six. Five books of Muhammad, and historically, what this term referred to would sometimes change. So it might be less. You might see some people saying three books or four books. It doesn't really matter that much right now because now the reality is everyone uses it to mean the same thing. So, can anyone name any of these books?
It's Jami Saghir.
Yeah, Madame Saghir. So you have something called a Saghir, which helps you to guess the other one. What's the opposite of a Saghir?
Jami Kabir.
We also have a Jama' al-Kabir then. Okay, that's two. Need three more.
Al-Asl.
Yeah, al-Asl, that's the main one. So al-Asl. And there's another name for al-Asl, which is also used, al-Mabsut. Now, it can be confusing because al-Mabsut also refers to another book in the Madhab that's not by Imam Muhammad. But anyway, the al-Asl is also called al-Mabsut. Now there's one more we need.
Is it Hujja al-Madina or something like that?
I mean, that is Imam Muhammad's book against the Malikis, basically, but it's not one of the books of Zahir Riwayah because it's not meant to codify the madhab. That's more of like a polemical work.
Mm.
I mean, I'll get to it in like 30 seconds if no one gets it. Because he also has the Muwatta, but that's also not from Zahir Riwayah because its main purpose is not to codify fiqh. It's more just like hadith, fiqh al-hadith type of thing.
Shouldn't there be two more because we only have three, right?
Oh, you're right. You're right. Sorry. Sorry. Two more. Yeah.
Is it Kitab al-Kharaj?
That's by Abu
Oh no,
Yusuf
that's Abu
and
Yusuf. Mm.
also yeah, not Zahir Riwayah. But yeah, it's good.
Kitab
It's good
al-Buyur?
that you know these books, but you should know these ones first.
Mm.
Uh,
Is it
Ziyadat
Kitab
could be
al-Buyur
one.
or
I heard somebody said, what was it? Zishan, you
Kitab
said?
al-Buyur?
Yeah, Ziyadat.
Yeah, Ziyadat is correct.
Oh.
Yeah, a Ziyadat is like adding on things that he forgot or didn't include in a Jami' al-Kabir and then later wanted to add them as Ziyadat. And I'm just going to give you a little bonus one, which is Ziyadat to Ziyadat. It's things that he wanted to add into Ziyadat and then he forgot to, so now he made a Ziyadat to Ziyadat. I'm saying forgot. I don't know if he actually forgot or whatever. For whatever reason, he didn't include them, then he decided it should be included. Anyway, there's just one more is a Sir al-Kabir, which is basically like, international law, I guess we'd call it now. And then, so this is one, two, three, four, and five. And then the one that is sometimes put as number six is Asir as-Saghir. But the reason why we leave this out generally now is because it's really part of Al-Asl. It's in Al-Asl. So you don't really consider it a separate book, even though maybe fine, it was originally a separate book. But then Kitab al-Asl itself was all the books in Kitab al-Asl used to be separate books. So then you have to make it instead of five, you have to make it like 100 or something. So anyway, better to have it this way. Okay, so anyway, that's Zahir Riwayah, basically what's in these books. Go ahead, Zishan, go ahead. Were you saying something?
No, I wasn't saying.
Okay. Um, so anyway, Zahir Riwayah doesn't give you a specific number for how many people have to see the moon on a clear day for it to be acceptable to the Qadi. But um, oh sorry, I messed up here. It's not Jam'un Ghafir. I just realized it's actually Jammun Ghafir. Jammun Ghafir. Jim Mim. But it means the same thing as Jam'un Kabir, basically. A whole lot of people, basically. So anyway, so we said in Zahir Riwayah, there's no specific number given to this Jammun Ghafir. So, and remember this is the general position of Abu Hanifa, right? That, okay, I'm gonna write the qaida here, and I think we mentioned it before, but I don't remember. لا تنسب المقادير المقادير لا تنسب إلا من قبل الشارع. This is قبل, not قبل. من قبل الشارع. So it's basically that al-maqadir means like limits and hard numbers that we use, like when we're looking for a number of people that have to see it here. We don't set numbers and limits unless it comes from the Sharia, from the Shari', meaning the Shari', who's the Shari'? The legislator. It's a bit of a trick question, but we'll see what we'll say. Like there's a Sharia, but who's laying down these laws? The Shari'. I'm just gonna wait until someone offers up a guess because there's not that many different people you can say.
I mean revelation to the process?
Well, that's not really a revelation is not a like person or an entity, right?
Well, Allah through the Prophet ﷺ.
Allah Wasallam. So okay, yeah, so you said both basically. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the shari'. That's the real hakiki meaning. And then also we call an-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam also the shari', but that's like from a majazi sense because it's not his sharia, right? It's the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he also legislates in a majazi sense, in a non completely literal sense. Yeah. So I don't know, or yeah, what's a good translation from Najazi? Here it's not really figurative, right? Yeah, I mean the ultimate reality is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the shari', but then from a different from lower perspective, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is also a shari'. So anyway, we don't set limits and numbers. This is Abu Hanifa's principle. We don't set limits and numbers unless it comes coming from the Sharia. I mean, it's coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, or ijma or qiyas, right? Well, not qiyas. I mean, here we're talking about it would be like actually coming from somebody. So here, that's why we say, okay, it's not set. And then that's why Imam Abu Hanifa here said that it's actually mufawwadan ila ra'i al-imam and the qadi. So that means we just leave it up to the qadi. The qadi decides what's the big number that we need here. Maybe if he lives somewhere that like there's no mountains, there's nothing, it's completely open, he would require a much bigger number versus some qadi somewhere else, which is like a very mountainous terrain. Only the people like up there can see, and down here it's harder to see because the mountains are in the way. Whatever, like he'll consider all these factors and maybe accept a different number. So this qadi, he's like, oh, 10 people saw it, great. The other guy is like, I'm not going to accept it unless 100 people see it because just there's all these different factors, and that's why we're leaving it up to the qadi. They also say here it should be from different areas, different directions. It's not only people in one locality. So again, that's all up to the qadi or the sultan or whoever's administering this particular thing. I mean, the default is that the qadi or the khalifa also acts as like a judge, but then once you get like a big sprawling empire, you can't have the executive leader being a judge in his in day-to-day affairs because it's not going to work. It's not enough time for that. Well, we know that our Prophet Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam acted as a judge, right? So he did give judgments, and even Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, radiallahu anhu, they did, but then it became less and less because you have so much more administrative work to do. There is another riwayah here, so that's Zahir riwayah. Now, if we have other riwayat, we call that usually Nadir riwayah or Nawadir. Literally means like rare, but it doesn't have to be rare. It could still be a strong riwayah, just not as widespread as the Zahir riwayah usually. So we have another riwayah here from Al-Hasan ibn Ziyad, the student of Abu Hanifa. He's saying that Abu Hanifa had another opinion, which is that we can accept here the testimony of two men or one man and two women, like in other things, um, even if there's like some obstruction in the sky. Sorry, that's if there's no obstruction in the sky. Okay, yeah. So okay. Sorry, they're going back to the previous masala. You know what we said here that he can accept only one person. So there's another riwayah that says, oh, actually no, it has to be two or one man plus two women, two men or one man plus two women. But anyway, that's another riwayah. That's fine. But it's good to know that about these riwayat because here when we do moon sighting, like we kind of need to have all these different opinions in order to make it work since there's no real authority. Okay. But I don't know if anyone actually, so they do some of the ulamas of the madhab said we should actually use that riwayah. You know why? Actually, why do you think they would make it? Okay, no, sorry, I put it in the wrong place. I was right the first time. So that riwayah about two men and or one man and two women was actually about when there is an obstruction. So the Zahir riwayah is that it has to be jam'un kathir. It has to be a huge number. There's another riwayah that says actually we can, even if it's like completely open, we can take the testimony of two men or one man and two women. So this riwayah, some of the later ulama said that actually we should act upon this one now. Because so why would they want to make it much easier to establish the month? Any theories on that?
Is this for the non-Muslim countries?
No, they were saying that he was like this riwayah was saying for in general. So the reason they gave here is actually because people are lazy now. Like it used to be that like, okay, yeah, everyone's gonna go look for the moon. Of course they will because they want to know when Ramadan is. But now people are lazy and they don't really care about matters of the deen that much. So now we have to accept less people going and seeing it, and then we're gonna accept their view. Otherwise, maybe you'll never get a big group. A lot of places, maybe nobody cares when Ramadan starts, so you're not gonna get that big group. So and I think some of them they do kind of use this riwayah even now. These moon sighting committees and things like that. You sometimes see that they'll be like, "Oh, we had one sighting in San Diego and we had one sighting in Vancouver, and now it's Ramadan," and it might have been like clear. So it seems like we kind of have to do that in non-Muslim countries because we don't have an official state apparatus looking for the moon. So yeah, I mean, this is it's worth considering. But again, that's up to the people who are actually in the field of moon sighting. We have 10 minutes till Maghrib, so I'll just go for another 5, 6 minutes, and then we'll take a break for Maghrib and come back. We'll set an exact time to come back. Okay. Okay, so now that's the moon sighting stuff. Anyone have any questions or things about moon sighting they want to talk about right now? And that'll be the time because we have a few minutes for Maghrib before starting the next thing.
So is it, in today's day and age, is it absolutely necessary to see the moon?
Yeah, that's a good question. So generally, yes. It seems in the Hanafi school, we do have to see it because it was always, but yeah, so in our day and age, we can pinpoint the birth of the moon, meaning the conjunction of the moon with like pinpoint accuracy. But to be honest, so could the ancient Greeks, like so could people thousands of years ago with like quite like maybe we're more precise, but they could still do it easily like within the hour or something, not like maybe not within the minute, but they still had that ability. Like ancient Greeks, I'm talking about like thousands of years before Islam. So it's not like it's like new, the ability to calculate the conjunction of the birth of the moon. Um, but we still required throughout the history to see if the moon was visible or not. So there's two different things here. One is the moon born, or is the moon, I don't know what the conjuncted, I don't know what the word is, but has the moon experienced like conjunction yet? Meaning it's a certain part of the horizon, etc., all whatever that means. You can look it up. But has that happened yet? That's one question. And that's something we can calculate exactly. The other question is it visible to us? And that's something that you can't calculate exactly because atmospheric conditions are not very predictable, especially if we try to calculate far in advance. So for that reason, that's why, most of the ulama have rejected purely using calculations to to actually establish when Ramadan starts because you're calculating something different. What the Sharia is telling you to do is figure out when you can see the moon. And what the calculation is telling you, oh, now the moon is born, and now this conjunction is over. Conjunction has happened, and conjunction has occurred. So it's actually two different things we're looking at. So for many reasons, I mean, the lemma, many of them didn't accept calculation. There is what the people who are using calculation are relying upon. Well, I shouldn't speak for everyone, but at least in North America, what they're relying upon is there is some view in the Shafi'i school that says you can rely upon the calculations of munajjimin, the astronomers, but like what exactly does that mean? Like their calculation of what? And does the calculation have to say that the moon is going to be this many degrees above the horizon and it has to be this much time before sunset or after sunset and moonset has to be here? Like, there's a lot of stuff to figure out there. So like the North American organizations have set numbers for all these things. They say like, oh, it has to be, I think it was 7 degrees above the horizon and at least 2 hours old at the time of sunset, something like that. They have all these factors that they use. And so that's their interpretation of that Shafi opinion. Whether that Shafi opinion is acceptable to follow or not, I don't really know. I mean, if that's that because in the Shafi madhab they're much more broad about being able to act upon what they consider weak opinions. Also, Turkey also does calculated moon sighting, and obviously they're all Hanafi there. But I don't actually know much about their justification for it. But yeah, so I'm not gonna say it's absolute, like that. There's no scope at all for a calculation that cannot be valid. Like I don't know that, but as far as I'm aware, there hasn't really been much general acceptance of it among the fuqaha, even though, we've known how to calculate the moon pretty accurately for a long time.
So, so there is already, like inherently, there is a potential of having more than one first of Ramadan and the Eid dates, and which I would imagine is acceptable.
First, yes, that's true. It is acceptable, and we have in the time of the Salaf, we actually have records of that happening. That okay, in Medina they were doing Eid, and then the Sahabi he rode his horse or camel to Kufa, and he saw that oh, they already did it yesterday, or the other way around, that they're doing it tomorrow, not today. Because it would be a long journey. So we have two things here. One is there's a fiqh difference. There's one fiqh ikhtilaf, like, do we consider the horizon of the world like all as one thing, meaning that if somebody sees it to your west, then you have to follow it, anyone to your west. And then the other opinion is basically we're not looking at the whole world, we're just looking at the general area that you're in, and that's like a separate, it's considered the horizon of this area is considered separate from the horizon of this area. That's a general ikhtilaf. But then I just said the whole world. It seems like the fuqaha who said that they weren't actually considering the whole world. They were considering a large region, but not maybe the entire world. Like they probably didn't have in mind that, oh, I see it in Australia, it's like a day and a half, like from our perspective before we can see it, and now we have to follow them. And so of course they didn't have time zones either. So that's another thing to consider. So anyway, that's one khilaf, the fiqhi khilaf. Then we have this other thing about modern communication. Now it's possible for us to see the moon anywhere, and the whole world knows within seconds. So that's what really complicates things, because people are saying that, oh, why are we having different days when we could have the same day? In the past, it wasn't even possible to have the same day, even if you could. So yeah, there's a lot of complications there. I think I guess he doesn't actually mention in Mukhtasar Qudoori about the thing about the different horizons or the same horizon. But that's also like a famous debate between madhabs and even within madhabs. So yeah, there's a lot going on there, and I don't have like a really good answer for you that this is how it should be, this is how we should understand it now. But certainly a lot of them have objected to understanding some kind of global sighting based on these pre-modern positions that wouldn't have really taken into account the entire globe. So yeah, there's a lot of different factors to be considered here. And I mean, I could send some articles and things that are good to read, like as a background for them. Like there's something called New Crescent Society. I think they had some good articles. So I could send some of those, but yeah, there's a lot of things to work out. And then that's even for Muslim countries. Like now for us, we have the whole other issue of authority and moon sighting committees, and debating the different, like, people, laymen in their community, just deciding what day they're going to do. It's like kind of a huge mess. And I don't know if there's a good solution to it, because no one here is going to accept anyone's authority ever, right? It's the American way. So, I don't know if there's a lot we can do about it. So Maghrib is in a few minutes, so I think we'll take a break here, and then let's give it like 20, 25 minutes, because people might have to make wudu and pray, and then if you need to do anything after, make your adhkar. So let's come back at 8:30, okay? So I'm just gonna pause the recording now. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء المرسلين، سيدنا مولانا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا محمد بن عبد الله، النبي الأمي القرشي الهاشمي، النبي الأمي الكريم، وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. So we'll be continuing now where he describes the time of fasting as well as the definition. So you can see he didn't put the definition at the beginning, he put it now. But I guess first he wanted to describe types, and then how Ramadan is established. Even though this chapter is not only about fard fasting, right? It's about all types of fasting. But a lot of what's being said, I mean, the moon sighting part is mostly about the fard fasting, because other types of fasting don't really depend on which month it is. Besides a few of the sunnah fasts, right? Like Ashura and the Hajj fast, etc. Okay. قال الإمام أبو حسين أحمد بن محمد القدوري رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا الله بعلومه وبركاته في الدارين آمين. ووقت الصوم.
What were you saying?
Well,
How's what?
I think your mic is on.
Like 45 minutes. Yeah.
ووقت الصوم من حين طلوع الفجر الثاني إلى غروب الشمس. So now, what does the time of fasting mean? What is the fasting day? So we said above, right? النهار النهار الشرعي is the fasting day, Fajr to sunset. So now he's just describing that. من حين طلوع الفجر الثاني إلى غروب الشمس. So from the time of the first second Fajr, like what does that mean? طلوع الفجر الثاني. So we said before that it means oh, no problem, Omar. Omar. Yeah, so the second Fajr is what we call where's the pen? The true dawn. Oh, last time I was trying to remember the proper term for this. Let me just quickly look it up. I mean, there's an astronomical term that they use for it. Yeah, true dawn or just twilight. And then the first Fajr, al-Fajr al is the false dawn. So we mean the true dawn here, not the false dawn, which is vertical light. This is like a horizontal light. So false dawn is zodiacal light. Yeah, so that's what they call it. But the true dawn, yeah, I don't see that term here, but there is some term for it, I believe. Anyway, so it starts at the true dawn, meaning basically when Fajr time starts, and then it goes until sunset, Ghurub shams Maghrib time. But we should remember though that even though it starts right when Fajr time starts, someone should have stopped eating before then, and whatever they need to do, brush their teeth, etc., that should be done before then, just so you don't risk eating during the time of the fast. If someone eats between these two times, intentionally or accidentally, then it does break the fast, as he'll cover later. And doing so forgetfully would not break the fast. So even though he'll cover this later, it's a very common example. One example of accidentally breaking the fast is thinking that it's not Fajr time yet, even though it really is. And then you just keep eating, of course, because you think, oh, Fajr is in maybe 15 minutes still. And then you realize afterwards that, oh, wait, it already was Fajr time. So in that case, the fast is broken and you'll have to make it up. But of course, it won't be, there's no sin. You're not sinful for doing so because you didn't know. Um, Let me just make sure he is going to talk about that. He talks about doing intentionally and forgetfully. I'm just trying to see if he also says unintentionally, meaning accidentally, which is the three different categories we have here. Yeah, he's gonna talk about those kind of things. So we'll wait till then to talk about it in more depth. Okay, so let's keep going because we haven't really read that much yet from this chapter. Qala as-sawmu. Now he's going to define as-sawm. We already talked about definition in the very beginning when we started this chapter, but let's just read his definition. Imam al-Qudoori rahimahullah. He says, by the way, the basis for the time of Fajr, for the time of fasting, people can review on their own is Surah Al-Baqarah, right? So Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 187, the famous, oh, sorry, I should just write it like this. 187, famous ayah about حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر, until the black thread and the white thread are distinguished from each other. So that for those things you should read the tafsir works and any tafsir for it, which will explain, how some of the Sahaba misunderstood this and how it should be properly understood. And it was explained by the Prophet ﷺ himself. So now the definition. الصوم هو الإمساك عن الأكل والشرب والجماع نهارا مع النية. So the definition we already talked about in the beginning of this chapter was like more precise than this one. But anyway, here's a simple definition, just saying som is to remember imsak means to refrain or to not do something. So refraining from eating, drinking, and sexual intercourse during the day. So this means the fasting day, with the intention. So the intention is important because if you don't have an intention, you're just not eating. That's not fasting. That's just I didn't eat. So you have to have the intention to make it a shari fast. And of course, you would have an intention if you're a Muslim in Ramadan, you know it's Ramadan, generally you would have an intention. You don't have to like specifically say it or think it at any specific time or make it like really specified or anything like that. And we already said before that it's only one thing to add in these definitions is min ahlihi, for someone who's eligible to fast. And someone who's eligible means not a woman who's in haid. So a woman who's in haid or nifas, they're not eligible to fast. Like even if they wanted to, it wouldn't be valid. So they're saying, yeah, the niyyah has to be for someone like that. Actually, sorry, this should be like an X. Okay, so that's the definition he gives. We already talked about other definitions, so let's move on. قال فإن أكل الصائم أو شرب أو جامع ناسيا لم يفطر ولا قضاء عليه ولا كفارة. Oh, so he starts off with forgetfully breaking the fast. Let's just see. There's three ways you could really break the fast. So let's just say breaking the fast. Could be in three different ways. Actually, let's just make a list. So first way is the most obvious, is intentionally breaking it, and that is of course the most severe if there was no excuse. Because if someone intentionally broke their fast, there's no reason, no excuse. They're just like, oh, I feel like eating. Then there's kafara. They have to actually expiate for that, and it's a major sin. So intentionally, but if there's an excuse, then even intentionally breaking it could be fine. If there's, like some person's about to collapse from not eating. Number two is what's the better order to do it in? Let's say forgetfully. So forgetfully has a special ruling in the Sharia, which we're going to read. Basically, eating something forgetfully, meaning forgetting that you're fasting. Okay, so that's important. Forget that you're fasting, not forget. Yeah, forgetting that fasting. Forget that one is fasting. And then we have a third type, which is accidentally. Now, this third type, there's no good English word that's going to describe all the scenarios. So intentionally, forgetfully, you learn what those are, and then everything else would be accidentally. So accidentally, basically, it includes like somebody held a gun to your head and made you break your fast. Because it's not intentional in the sense that you didn't want to do it, and it's not forgetful. You didn't forget that you're fasting, but you were coerced into it. So we put it in this third category. So accidentally is really not a good word, to be honest. You could probably say like unintentionally or not by one's own volition, not volitionally, I guess. But even that probably doesn't work completely that well. If anyone knows a good word that you've seen used, you can say so, but I don't know a good word. So this includes coercion. Some somebody forced you to break the fast, or it also includes like you're outside and it's pouring outside, and you look up with your mouth open like absent-mindedly, but you didn't forget that you're fasting. You know you're fasting, but you just look up and your mouth is open, and it unintentionally breaks the fast. So you could put like absent-mindedness here, or like you have a habit. So maybe some of us have a habit, of drinking water after wudu because it's from the sunnah. So you drink, so you're doing wudu, you're fasting, but just like, you all do this every wudu, so automatically you just drink some water after wudu and it goes down your throat. That's also from this third category, meaning your fast would actually be broken. Um, Even though it's not, you didn't intend to do it and you didn't forget, so now it falls into the third category. So these are three main categories we have, and everything we read now, we're going to fit them into one of these categories. There's only three categories. I can't think of, yeah, there's not, I said main categories, but there's no other categories, basically. Okay. And we'll talk about why forgetfully has a different ruling. Because the qiyas, normal legal reasoning, would dictate that any kind of breaking the fast should have the same, like, should really be the same. Like if you do it forgetfully, you should still break your fast. Why doesn't it break your fast? So we'll talk about why that is. But first, let's read the ruling. So if the person fasting eats or drinks or has sexual intercourse forgetfully, meaning forgetting that they're fasting, then their fast is not broken. Okay, that's very important. Lam yuftar. The fast is not broken, and they don't have to make qada and no kafara. So no qada, obviously, because their fast is not broken. They're going to continue fasting now. So there's no reason to make it up. And of course, no kafara, no expiation, because expiation is only when you break a fast intentionally. Okay, so why? Why is this the case? Basically, the reason we go against qiyas here is because we have explicit narrations from the Prophet ﷺ that forgetfulness is overlooked. Some of them are رفع عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكره عليه, or something like that. So we have narrations about forgetfully breaking the fast not breaking it actually, like forgetfully eating or drinking, not breaking the fast, or sexual intercourse, not breaking the fast. Um, because when you're forgetfully doing this, you're actually still refraining. Just that right now you forgot that you're fasting, so it's not like you intentionally broke it. Um, and because an-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he in the hadith he actually said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is granting you this as like a type of host. He's like your host and you're the guest. The hadith is from Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. من نسي وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب فلي فليتم صومه فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه. So this hadith basically is whoever forgets that he's fasting and he eats or drinks, then he should complete his fast because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who fed him or gave him to drink. So we have a direct nas that this is fine. He's going to complete his fast. So of course there's no qada, no makeup, and no kafara, no expiation. So this is what do we call this? We're leaving qiyas. What would this be? An example of what?
Istihsan.
Yeah, istihsan. But what type of istihsan would you say it is?
استحسان بالنص.
Yeah, istihsanu bin nas. Because we're only going against the qiyas because of the nas. We have direct nas saying that no, if you do it forgetfully, your fast is not broken. You're fine. In fact, it's like a favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this can happen to people, right? Like you first day of Ramadan, you're not used to it yet, and you had the intention, you didn't wake up for suhoor because you didn't know, weren't sure if it was Ramadan, but now you're fasting, and then you eat a full meal or something, and then you remember, then that means you're fine. You got to eat your meal, and you still got to fast too. Okay, that's that masala. If anyone has questions, you can ask. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep going. So he says this next one is only in some copies of Qudoori. It's not in all copies of Qudoori. So we'll read it though because it's in the one we're using. فإن ظن ذلك يفسد صومه فأكل بعد ذلك متعمدا فعليه القضاء ولا كفارة عليه. By the way, this forgetful thing, it's not. I think the Malikis don't accept this, right, or something. Somebody said something different about it. If anyone knows, you can feel free to chime in. I think some madhab doesn't have this forgetfulness. They don't give it this specific ruling somehow. Okay, so now what happens if I didn't know the ruling? I didn't know that, oh, if you forgetfully eat or drink, then it's overlooked and you can still fast. So here's the masala he's talking about. So if he thought that that breaks his fast, he thought that forgetfully eating or drinking or sexual intercourse breaks his doesn't he thought it does break his fast, and then he decides, okay, I'm just gonna start eating now because I broke my fast. So after that, he starts eating intentionally. Then he has to make qada because now his fast really is broken because he started eating intentionally. But unlike most cases of eating intentionally during the fast, there's no kafar, no expiation, because here, it's because of his ignorance, he didn't realize that, oh, my fast is actually still intact. So I'm not allowed to eat now. There's still a problem with what he did, right? Because even if you do break your fast accidentally or something, you're not supposed to eat after that. You're still supposed to make imsak, refraining. Even though that fast is not going to count for you, you're still not supposed to eat or drink because that was the sanctity of the time of Ramadan, the daytime of Ramadan. But anyway, if he did this, then he has to make up that fast, but he doesn't have to make expiation. Yeah, sure. Istihsan is leaving. So the one definition, there's many definitions, but the Arabic definition would be tarkul qiyas. This is like the simplest Arabic definition, that's why I use it. But the other definitions, tarkul qiyas li munasaba. So you're leaving what normal legal reasoning. This is my own wording. I'm sure you'll find other ways to define it. Legal reasoning. Oh, reasoning would entail for some Uh, for I don't want to say reason again. What's the synonym for reason? For some cause, I guess. Ugh, I never handwrite English anymore, so okay. So istihsan is leaving what normal legal reasoning would entail for some cause. So normal legal reasoning would say, oh, you ate or drank something, so your fast is broken. It's simple, actually. Eating or drinking something or having sexual intercourse breaks their fast. But now we're saying it doesn't break the fast. How come? So we're leaving it for some cause. Now this cause can be a nas, so like Quran, Sunnah, um, Ijma, for example. Okay. It could also be some what do you call it? Istihsan bin nas. Okay, it could be urf. So urf means like societal practice. So we'd find that a lot in financial transactions. Like according to what the Sharia, normal rulings of the Sharia, it should dictate that this financial transaction is haram. That shouldn't be allowed. But then the societal practice is that it's always been practiced upon, so it's fine. And one example of that is a very common type of thing is like ordering something, having something made to order, right? So you order something and you pay now, even though the thing doesn't exist yet. And we know the Prophet ﷺ forbade bay' al-ma'dum, selling something that doesn't exist yet. But I have a factory, so of course it doesn't exist yet. I'm going to make it for you. So I'm going to make it for you. You're going to give the money now. You have to pay up front. So normally we would say, I mean, if you apply strict legal reasoning, you would say that's not allowed. The qiyas, the normal legal reasoning would say that's not allowed because it doesn't exist yet, and we have a hadith about it. But then we're going to say, no, we're going to go against that qiyas and make it istihsan and say that actually doing made to order kind of thing is fine because people have been practicing it in every society forever, and it was accepted. So we're going to go against the legal reasoning and accept it. Another so that's nas is urf. The other type is I'm just gonna continue down here. Darura. So because of a necessity. So certain okay. So one example of this is like a sharecropping agreements. Like I'm going to rent your field. I'm going to rent your field and I'm going to plant on it, and then I get to take this percentage of the produce, and you get to take this percentage of the produce. Normally, the Sharia wouldn't allow that because it's sorry, not percentage. I'm going to take uh actually, yeah, fine. I'm going to take this percentage. That you're going to take that percentage of the produce, and that's going to be the payment. I'm not going to pay you to rent the field. Normally, the Sharia wouldn't allow that for certain reasons, but out of necessity, because this is how like a lot of farms survive, they would say, okay, it's allowed. Actually, this one you can say it's both because of urf, societal practice, and because of necessity. But there can be overlap between these as well. Another one that they say is الاستحسان بالتعامل. That's same as urf. There's more types. I'm just trying to think what there's like quite a few types, but there's like four that are very common, and I'm just trying to remember. Um, so I'm forgetting like one of the main ones is القياس الخفي. الخفي. So okay, I'm gonna write this in Arabic also for those who are taking notes in Arabic, but القياس الخفي. So remember we said going against what normal legal reasoning would entail? The normal legal reasoning, we're going to call it al-qiyas, legal analogy. But then we're going to say al-qiyas al-jali, the clear legal reasoning. So sometimes we have the clear legal reasoning says that this is what the ruling should be. Then we have al-qiyas al-khafi, a more subtle legal reasoning that we're using to say that no, we're going to go against the clear legal reasoning, use this more subtle reasoning that is actually stronger in and of itself. And let me just find you one example of that. By the way, I would recommend like if you have like well, this is one of the reasons why I recommend physical copies. But a physical copy in like my book, I have all these like notes, and then I can go back to what page number they are. And in one of these things I have is just different types of istihsan and different examples of each. So like now that I'm teaching it, I don't have to think of an example. I can just look at my list and go back to example that I have written down. So I'm just gonna go look at it, the page number, and see. Okay, here. This is which book? This is my Alubab, the commentary of Al-Quduri. But I mean, you should do it with every book. Okay, here's an example which we actually covered before, but maybe I didn't tell you it was istihsan. I don't remember. So he says, okay, you're allowed to pray nafil sitting down, right? You're allowed to do that. We all know that. So if somebody started off the nafil prayer standing, can they start sitting in the next rak'ah or like during that nafil prayer later just because they feel like it? Not for like some excuse. They just feel like it. So according to Abu Hanifa, that's allowed. That's valid. According to Sahibain, it's not allowed. Because according to Sahibain, we're going to use the qiyas, the clear qiyas, al-qiyas al-jali. The clear legal reasoning is that, oh, you started off the prayer in a stronger state, and now you're trying to build something sorry, what was I saying? The qiyas jali here would be okay, yeah, so their qiyas jali, their clear qiyas is that you started off in a certain way, so now you have to do the rest the same way. Like it's a simple rule. Al-shuru'u mulzim, that's the rule. And then Abu Hanifa is saying, okay, that's the qiyas, but I have a more subtle qiyas, and his istihsan is that uh, okay, so al-istihsan is he's using the principle al-baqa ashalu min al-ibtida, that remaining in something is easier than starting. So starting is harder than like maintaining something or remaining in something. So now that it's started, we're going to keep the validity of this prayer until some, much stronger reason comes along to make it invalid. And that might not be a super clear example, to be honest, but that's one example of like you have two different legal reasonings they're using, and then one of them is considered to be stronger, and it also happens to be the more subtle one. Let me look for one more example of that, because this is an important type of istihsan. بالقياس الخفي. In fact, it's one of the more common ones. And this one and the nas are common. But okay, al-istihsan, this is actually the main one they mean when they say it, but it also means other types. 319. Okay, here's a more recent one that we did, I guess. It's also in zakat. Um, remember we did in zakat that somebody donates all of his money and he doesn't intend to give it as zakat. He's just doing it as sadaqah, nafal sadaqah. The qiyas would be this guy owes his zakat now. Even though he has $0 now, he still owes zakat because the zakat became wajib upon him, it became fard upon him, and now he gave away all his money and he didn't even intend zakat. So of course it's not going to count for the zakat. You need intention to count for zakat. So that's the qiyas. That's the qiyas jali, the clear legal reasoning. But then the more subtle legal reasoning would be that that part he was supposed to pay is a part of his total money that he had, and it was specified to give that part, and now that he gave the whole thing, there's no need for specification anymore. The whole point of having an intention for giving zakat is that you need to specify a certain part of the money. Now that he gave the whole thing, you don't need to specify anymore. Therefore, it would actually be valid, and his zakat is considered paid, even though he didn't make the intention. That's another example of like different types of legal reasoning. That would be istihsan bil qiyas al khafi, by the less subtle by the more subtle legal reasoning. And just as a general rule, al-istihsan almost always takes priority over qiyas. If in one masala we have istihsan on one side, we have qiyas on the other side, usually istihsan will be the opinion that we take as a stronger opinion because of having stronger reasoning. Okay, so that was all about the forgetfulness, and then if somebody eats after that, then we're going to say he has to make it up. But he won't have to pay kafara because he didn't know. He thought that if you eat forgetfully, it will break your fast. And that would also be excused because, like I said, it's something that other madhahib may say. So it's not like he was completely wrong. It's not only based on ignorance, it might be based on hearing a different ruling from a different school. Okay, next one. Now we give some examples of things that will break the fast in general. So وإن نام فاحتلم أو نظر إلى امرأة فأنزل أو ادهن أو احتجم أو اتحل أو قبل لم يفطر. Oh, sorry, now he's telling things that don't break the fast. So remember, this is very common, right? This is one scenario. This is another scenario. This is another scenario. That's another scenario, another scenario, another scenario, and all of them all go back to the same ruling, not breaking the fast. So you have to read these books that way. Like keep reading till the end to see what the ruling is, and then you apply to all these scenarios. So the first scenario is someone sleeps and they have a wet dream. So like a dream of a sexual nature, right? So if that happens, the fast is not broken. That's an example of something that does not break the fast. Because they didn't, and this is even if they ejaculated. If someone had a wet dream and ejaculated, like released sexual fluid, then it still wouldn't break the fast if it wasn't like it wasn't under their control, right? A wet dream just came to them when they were sleeping. They had that kind of dream, so that would not break the fast. The next one he says that would also not break the fast is أو نظر إلى امرأة فأنزل. He looks at a woman and he ejaculates. So that again would not break the fast. I mean, maybe he shouldn't be looking at her. I mean, depends. I mean, if it's like the wife, then uh, like then fine. But if he another woman, maybe he shouldn't be looking at her. But then either way, this is what happened, right? That he ejaculated because of looking at a woman, and this would apply also like for a woman looking at a man or some whatever, any object of sexual desire. Then they ejaculated. That would not break the fast, and we'll see why soon because you'll see times where ejaculation will break the fast. So but these examples of a fast is not broken. And the next one, dahana. So he uses oil, whether it's on the hair, the skin, whatever. It doesn't matter where. It doesn't break the fast. The reason why someone might think it breaks the fast is because what if it gets absorbed into the skin or something like that? But it doesn't break the fast unless of course he actually like drinks the oil. Then of course that breaks the fast. The next example is ihtajama, meaning cupping, right? He goes for cupping. This does not break the fast. Anyone know why they would mention the cupping as something that doesn't break the fast?
Because I think Hanbali say it does.
Yeah, so there's a
Or
hadith.
somebody.
There's a hadith actually that says it does. It says after al hajim wal mahjum that the person actually doing the cupping and the person getting the cupping done to them, their fast is broken. But that we say it's mansukh, it's abrogated. It used to be the ruling. And if you think about it, the person doing the cupping, like there's actually no reason why their fast should be broken, right? They're just doing it. They're not even having anything done to them. But that was the ruling at some point. And they say that, the reasoning here is that we don't want people to weaken themselves by cupping during fasting, because if they do that, they might have to break their fast. And I'm trying to avoid that. That's why it's considered makruh to undergo cupping while you're fasting if it's going to weaken you. So next thing that doesn't break the fast is iktahala. Iktahala, to use kuhul, to put kuhul under your eyes, like what do you call it? The other name for it.
Antimony, sorry.
Yeah, antimony in English, but there's another name that people use. I don't even know if it's Arabic, or maybe it's like Urdu or something. I don't know. I always hear it, but I forgot now. But the stuff you put under your eyes. Um, so that doesn't break the fast. Someone might think it breaks the fast because it's possible that you put things in your eyes and you can actually taste it in your throat. So they say even then it won't break the fast.
So would that apply to eye drops?
Yes, eye drops as well. There's nothing. The eye drops will not break the fast.
No, once again, because the taste will go into the mouth.
Even if, yeah, they say even if the taste goes, they explicitly said that no, that still would not break the fast.
Okay, thanks.
Because it's not the substance itself, or it's just like such a microscopic amount. That's why the taste is going to the mouth. And there's the other consideration that there's no normal route. I mean, there is, but like there's not normal with the route between the eyes and the throat, but it's not normally, the substances don't normally go that way. Actually, that's a big discussion we need to have at some point that, you know, are breakers of the fast purely a Shari'i thing? Like the Sharia just tells you breaks the fast, or that's what's broken, or do we have to consider our medical knowledge, our modern medical knowledge, or modern anatomical knowledge, and say that, okay, now we know that there's no route for a substance to go from this opening, from the ears to the throat, so now we won't say this. So we'll talk about that when we get to some of those. But this one's agreed upon. Like this one, even in pre-modern times, they said this does not break the fast. Putting something in the eyes. Now the next one is, oh, go ahead.
Is it cause we know the Prophet ﷺ did it? So it's like istihsan?
I don't know actually. I was just assuming it's because there's no real route there, for substances to actually, like for a substance to get there from to the throat from the eyes. But you might be right. I don't know.
So there is no direct path, but there is like from the nose into the throat.
Okay. So how would somebody taste something by using kohol?
Okay, I don't think that they can.
Okay. So I wonder why they
Or
said
does
what.
it even have a taste?
I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of chemical or whatever it is, but okay, I don't know then. Yeah. Because they do mention it in the books of fiqh, oh, there's no route there, so that's why. But then if somebody does taste it, then we're going to say fast didn't break because, then it wouldn't have come from there if there's no route. That's an interesting question about what, like, what did they believe about it? Okay, so the next one is if he kissed someone, or he or she, right? But here's using the male verb. He kissed someone, so he kissed a woman or anyone for that matter. Kissing doesn't break the fast. Of course, here this means kissing and no ejaculation, because in the very next line he's going to talk about ejaculation because of kissing. So kissing and no ejaculation, and also no it's not like no swallowing of the other person's saliva or something. So that also here we're assuming just like a normal kiss, a dry kiss, um, that would not break the fast. Or even if there is saliva involved, like not like as long as there's no swallowing going on, it wouldn't break the fast. So why doesn't that break the fast here? I mean, for a lot of these things, for some of these things, might think, oh, it should have broken the fast because look, this guy looked at a woman and then he ejaculated. So why doesn't that break the fast? So here they say that to break the fast, we're looking for al-munafi, the breaker. We're looking for so al-munafi means the three things that break the fast, right? Eating, drinking, sexual intercourse. We're looking for those things to be present. So let me just write that down: eating, drinking, and sexual intercourse. We're looking for these things to be present either we're looking for suratan wa ma'nan. So they should be present in form and in meaning. So what does that mean? Like, for example, for sexual activity, the form should be there and the meaning. We'll talk about that when we go through more examples. Eating, there should be the form of eating as well as the meaning. And we'll talk about some where they're going to say, okay, here's the form, not the meaning, not the form. It'll become much clearer when we look at the next couple of lines. What does that mean? Suratan wa ma'nan. One second, just look at my notes here. Okay, so let's read the next couple lines, and then we'll come, and then we'll see. It'll illustrate this concept. So now, so remember, I said that you have to look at all the scenarios, and then you look at the ruling. So the ruling comes at the end. The scenarios come first. So now he says two scenarios here, which is going to result in the guy has to make up the fast because he broke his fast, but he does not have to do expiation, no kafara. So وإن أنزل بقبلة أو لمس فعليه قضاء ولا كفارة عليه. If someone ejaculates, so inzal is ejaculation. So if someone ejaculates due to a kiss or due to touching, then his fast is broken and he has to make up the fast. Of course, if your fast is broken, you have to make up the fast, but he doesn't have to do expiation. So what happened here? Why is it here that is breaking the fast? So here we see that Um, so what are we finding here in this one? In this one, we're seeing that we have the meaning, ma'nan. We have the meaning of sexual intercourse, even though we don't have the form of it. The form obviously is like actual penetration. That would be the form. But the meaning is just that he found pleasure through something that's normally like a type of, foreplay, and he ejaculated. So that's why we're saying we're finding the meaning here, but we're not finding the form. That's why he has to do qada, he has to make it up and the fast is broken, but he doesn't have to do kafara. Kafara is when we find both the meaning and the form, as we'll see. So yes, the meaning here is that because of the ejaculation, along with the touching or the kissing. And kissing, of course, is a type of touching, so you can put it under touching. But before, the previous masala, we said he looked at a woman and ejaculated. So there we didn't find the the meaning, which is ejaculating along with some kind of physical contact. We only found ejaculation without any physical contact. And of course, we definitely didn't have the form because the form is penetration and there's no penetration here. Okay, so let's just keep reading the masala, then we can go through the general principles again. Uh, So the next masala. So now he mentioned that okay, a type of kissing that wouldn't break the fast, which is just kissing, a normal kissing, and then a type of kissing that would break the fast because it's along with ejaculation. And of course, the ejaculation is the important part here. But the fact that it's along with some kind of touching makes it be similar, at least in meaning, to actual sexual intercourse. But now he just talks about kissing in general. وَلَا بَأْسَ بِالْقُبْلَةِ إِذَا أَمِنَ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ وَيُكْرَهُ إِنْ لَمْ يَأْمَنْ. So he says there's no problem with kissing during fasting if the person feels secure upon himself, meaning he trusts himself, he's not gonna kiss his wife or whoever, and then it's going to lead to more. It's going to lead to like actual sexual intercourse. If the person feels like it's fine, he or she, then there's no problem with kissing during fasting. Uh, but it'll be makruh. He says yukra in lam ya'man. What if the person thinks that, oh, if I kiss her, then it's probably going to lead to more. Then it would be makruh to do it while fasting because he's putting his fast in danger. And we're saying wife from husn al-dhan, but even if it was like some haram relationship, like a girlfriend or a boyfriend or something, that's still the rulings still apply, of course. There would just be an extra sinfulness aspect there. That's why we have some hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or not, actually, I think it was a Sahabi that he told like this older man, like, oh, he asked about kissing the wife while fasting, and he said, yeah, you can do it. And then some younger man came, and he was like newly married, and he asked about it, and the Sahabi, I think it was Ibn Abbas, maybe, he said, or Ibn Mas'ud, I can't remember, but he said, no, you can't do it. So then his students of the Sahabi asked, like, why did you give them different answers? It's basically because of this. Like, we expect that maybe a younger, newer couple won't be as able to control themselves as a older, couple who's been married a longer time. Okay, so just to review this part, because actually I don't think that he's gonna mention it too much. So we have these three different breakers: eating, drinking, and sex, and we look at both the form and the meaning. So when we have only the form or only the meaning, it can still break the fast. So for example, if somebody I'm only saying this now because I don't think. Oh, actually, no. It's gonna come up later. What makes? Okay, we'll come back to this because he's gonna talk about what requires qada and kafara. What requires a makeup and what do you call it? Kafara. Forgot that word just now. Expiation. Yeah. So he's gonna do some other rulings right now, and then we'll come back to this thing about kafara and qada. So you can see the ordering here is it's not like a lot of later books where it'd be more organized or it'd appear more organized to us. There's a reason why it's like this also. But let's keep going here. So first, before we even start this, the default ruling for vomit, okay, and blood, ad-dam, is that it does not break the fast. Okay, doesn't break the fast. That's the default ruling. Then we're gonna see there's some cases in which, okay, something could happen that will make it break the fast. But in general, blood doesn't break the fast, meaning bleeding doesn't break the fast. I'm not talking about like drinking someone's blood. I'm talking about drinking or your own. I'm talking about bleeding doesn't break the fast and vomiting doesn't break the fast generally. Now let's see what Imam al-Qudoori says. That's just the principle to start off with. So he says, وَإِنْ ذَرَعَهُ وَإِنْ ذَرَعَهُ الْقَيْءُ لَمْ يُفْطِرْ. So if vomiting overcomes him, so somebody had to vomit. It's not like he tried to vomit. So he had to vomit. Vomiting overcame him. He didn't do anything intentionally. And then it does not break the fast. Okay, so remember, anyone remember we talked about vomiting a mouthful and not a mouthful, something you could hold in, you can't hold in. What was that about? What rulings did that affect? I don't remember that.
Sorry, what was the question again?
We talked before about vomiting affecting some rulings, like, whether it's a full mouthful or not a mouthful, and we explained that as being like how, whether he can hold it in or not. Like, what is that about?
Um, I think if you vomit, if you can't hold it in, if it's intentional, you break the fast, right? But if it's not intentional, then
No, yeah. So, what I was getting at is for wudu. Remember for wudu? If you vomit a mouthful, then it's considered a breaker of wudu. If it's less than a mouthful, then it's not considered a breaker.
no.
So what I'm trying to say here is that mouthful, not mouthful doesn't matter here for fasting. We're only looking at intentional versus unintentional. So here, this is unintentional because it overcame him. Dhara'ahu, like sabaqahu, or ghalabahu. The vomiting overcame him, and so he vomited while fasting. The fast is not broken. That's important. The fast is not broken. Now the next one is, what if he did this intentionally? By the way, all this is assuming that he vomits and the vomit comes out, not that he vomits and then he swallows it again. Um, it's kind of disgusting, I guess, but that's a separate ruling. Um, Even if he does swallow it again, there's some different riwayat here, but basically, even then it wouldn't break the fast unless generally they say unless it like comes out of the mouth and then he swallows it again, not if it's like still in the mouth, which yeah, I mean usually that wouldn't happen, I hope. Okay, so now that's for unintentional vomiting. Now intentional, what if he intentionally vomits? When istaqahu, so remember istaqa is from the same root as qay, but the sin and the ta, we know that in the form istifal it implies talab, like he tries to do it, he's trying to vomit. So in istaqahu, someone's vomiting intentionally, so amidan, intentionally. Now we're looking at the mouthful, mouthful. Then he has to make qada, which what does that mean? It means the fast is broken. So that means we have like we can make four scenarios here if we like or actually we just make it a chart. So like intentional, unintentional, and then here we have mouthful or less than a mouthful. And remember what mouthful means for our context is being able to hold it in without any great difficulty is less than a mouthful, and not being able to do so would be a mouthful. So based on what we just saw, okay, I just need you guys to help me fill in this chart. So which ones of these would break the fast and which ones would not out of these scenarios?
So for the first one, it would break the fast.
Intentionally and a mouthful. Yeah, this one would break the fast. Fast is broken for that one.
The second one wouldn't.
Second one meaning
The to the right.
oh, intentionally, if it was less than a mouthful, then it would not break the fast according to what Imam al-Qudoori is saying. Now what about for the unintentional?
It's not going to break fast anyways.
Yeah, it's not going to break the fast no matter what the amount or mouthful or not it is. So according to what Imam al-Quduri said, it's only this one scenario that's going to break the fast if somebody intentionally vomited more than a mouthful. And again, what we mean by, I mean, a mouthful or more. What we mean by mouthful is something that's hard to keep in without difficulty. Um, this is what Imam al-Quduri says. I keep saying this is what Imam al-Quduri says because there's another riwayah. But yeah, do you have a question before we move on?
Yeah. So when someone is trying to vomit intentionally, is the person trying to break their fast? And if that's like intentionally breaking the fast, wouldn't that ruling apply on that?
So they are doing it intentionally here, but it doesn't mean there's still not going to be any kafara because for kafara you require eating, drinking, or sexual intercourse in a way that has like the meaning and the form. And this is not eating or drinking or sexual intercourse. It's actually, you're not ingesting anything, and there's no sexual intercourse. So no, this doesn't require kafara. One sec, I just need to read my note here. Uh, yes, what Imam al-Quduri is saying is Abu Yusuf's view, and it is considered the Sahih. But then in Zahir Riwayah, yeah, the Zahir Riwayah, that's what I was saying before. There's like we don't look at the mouthful or not mouthful for fasting matters, but I think we can stick with what Imam al-Quduri says here because there's actually like multiple riwayat here. And then there's some detail on what if this person, after they vomit, they ingest the vomit again. But we don't need to go there unless someone really wants that detail. Yeah, like I have a lot of notes here, but I don't think it really makes sense to go into all this detail, especially in this book is not meant for getting into like a lot of detail about that. But when we read the commentary, inshallah, at some point we'll read a commentary and either of this text or another, and then we'll go into the details then. So next thing he says, what time is it? Okay, yeah, we still have a bit of time, since we're not praying Isha here. But okay, so he says, well, now he gives more examples of things that, okay, somebody might think either it does break fast or it does not, or it resembles eating or drinking, but it's kind of strange because it's not real food. So let's see. So he says, ومن ابتلع الحصاة أو الحديد أو النواة أفطر وقضى. So here are some things that aren't generally considered to be food, but the person is eating them while fasting. So what happens? So somebody ingests a stone or stones or rocks or al-hadid iron, so some metal, it's not food. Or nawat like date seeds, right? So it's not food. You don't eat the seeds generally. Like you're just eating the seeds. Or something like those, like something that human beings don't eat and consider like not to be food or like disgusting to eat. So in all these cases, the fast is broken. The fast is broken because he did eat something, right? Even if it's not what we would consider food, he did eat something. And he has to make, so of course, if the fast is broken, then necessarily he has to make qada wa qada. He has to make up this fast, but there's no kafara. So here, remember the surah and ma'na thing we were talking about? So here we definitely have the surah. We have the form of eating. He clearly ingested something. We have the form, but we don't have the ma'na, the meaning of eating, because eating means like you're eating something that has some nutrition that's going to make you that's going to satiate you, or to at least you enjoy it or something. But most people are not going to enjoy eating these stones and date seeds and random pieces of metal. So it doesn't have the meaning. So no kafara because we only have the form of the breaking here and not the meaning. And for kafara, we need both the form and the meaning. And well, as I said, we'll go through the concept again after we read more and more of these rulings and keep adding to our understanding of it. The concept of the form and meaning, because it only becomes clear after looking at examples. Okay, so that's now he goes back to intentionally breaking the fast. So now we're going to see some things that require makeup and it requires kafara, expiation. And of course, the expiation is not something easy for fasting, as we'll see. Let me just see. When does he describe the expiation? I think it's at the end of the chapter. But remember we talked about kafara to dhihar, that's mentioned in the Quran. Basically, the kafara for fasting is based on that, but even though there's slight differences. And that one is mentioned in the Quran. Yeah, I don't see it here, but it's somewhere here. Okay. So now this next masala, woman jama'a. What does jama'a mean, this verb? Anyone know? Because this is the verb they use in books of fiqh that they wouldn't use in like normal Arabic now. So here basically means like having sexual intercourse. So try to remember that verb because you'll see it again. Well, especially in this chapter, but other chapters too, like in nikah and stuff. So someone ومن جمع عامدا في أحد السبيلين أو أكل أو شرب ما يتغذى به أو يتداوى به فعليه القضاء والكفارة مثل كفارة الظهار. Oh, he said it here anyway. Okay. So someone who has sexual intercourse in one of the two passages, either of the two passages. So what does that mean? Of course, vagina is normal or the anus. So remember we talked about several times, I think, that books of fiqh, they tell us the rulings. Even they tell us the rulings of things that are haram or sinful in themselves. So somebody has sexual intercourse, whether it's through the vagina, which is permissible, of course, normally when not fasting, or it's anal, which is not allowed, right? That's haram, which is as mentioned in the Quran, that is haram. Um, then either way, it's still the ruling will be the same, even though one of them is sinful, another one, well, they're both sinful because you're doing it while fasting, but because it's intentionally, but one of them is worse. So anyway, the ruling applies either way, and we'll talk about why. Okay, so remember, this is one scenario, this is another scenario, this is another scenario, and then the ruling is at the end. So qada and kafara. So if someone has sexual intercourse intentionally, then there's both qada, makeup, and kafara, expiation, and that is regardless of whether the sexual intercourse was vaginal or anal. And then the next one is o akala, or he ate intentionally or drank intentionally. But what did he eat or drink? Not a stone, not a piece of metal like before. ما يتغذى به ويتداوى به. That which is normally eaten and used for nutrition or used to just eaten, or that which is normally used as medication. So medications, which are taken through the oral route, or food, which is ingested, or drink, which is ingested normally, it's a normal food or drink. All of these things require qada and kafara if done intentionally. Remember that this intentional amidan applies to this whole thing, the eating and the drinking too. So why do you think it requires kafara here based on this thing we keep talking about? This concept. Because if up here he ate a stone, it didn't require kafara, only required qada. Why does eating some normal food require a kafara also?
Because the meaning and form are both there.
Yeah, so here the eating and the drinking and the sexual intercourse, we have both the form. So the form for eating means ingesting something, and drinking, ingesting something. The form for sexual intercourse means penetration, pretty much. And we have penetration here. And then we also have the meaning. So the meaning of eating or drinking is, getting some nutrition or something out of it, like fulfilling the desire of the stomach. And the meaning for intercourse would be, the ejaculation or fulfilling the desire of the private parts, basically. So we have both things here. So now we have qada and kafara. He has to make up this fast, of course, and he has to make kafara, which in most cases in our time will mean that he has to fast for like 61 days. 60 days of kafara and another day for the qada. I say in most cases, probably all cases, because who's going to find a slave to free? Because that would be the first thing. But you can't really find that, so you have to go to the next option. And we'll see. We'll see the options, the different options. And then he says the kafara is like the kafara to the dhihar. It's like the kafara of the dhihar. I'm just gonna give you a summary here because I don't think he's gonna mention the kafara here. For the kafara for breaking a fast, the expiation kafara. We have there's the three options. I'm not the three options. There's three things to be done for kafara, but they come in order. So only If you can do the first one, you must do the first one. If you can do this, if you can't do the first one, you have to go to the second one. And if you can't do the second one, then you can go to the third one. So there's an order of priority. So number one is freeing a slave. The slave can be Muslim or kafir. I'm mentioning that because some of the ulama said it has to be Muslim. So freeing a slave is number one. So you have to free a slave if that's what you have. If you have the financial ability to free a slave, you must do so if you can find a slave to free, which of course is the hard part for us. So number two would be uh, is fasting 2 months. I'm writing 2 months. I'm not writing 60 days because it's theoretically possible to do 59 days, for example, like 30 days and 29 days, or even maybe even 58. That's really only if you start like with the month. Otherwise, you would just count by days, 60 days, which would be, I think, most cases. And the third option, if somebody can't fast, like for example, they're unable, like they're very old and they're never going to be able to fast again. You know, they haven't made the kafara before. Then they're not able to fast, right? So then the third option is to feed 60, needy people who are eligible for zakat, basically. So that's the kafara for breaking the fast. So this would be the one that probably most people would have to do. And no one's really going to do this one. And then this one, like, if they're not able to fast ever again in their life, it seems, then they would go to this one, feeding 60 needy people. So kafarat al-zihar is similar, but there are small differences, like okay, anyway, there are some small differences, but we don't need to go through it right now. And remember, this fasting 2 months is consecutively. It has to be in a row, consecutive. And if somebody decides like, oh, I don't want to fast today, I'm just gonna skip a day, then they have to start 60 days all over again. So, it's meant to be as a punishment, even though it's ibadah also, but it's a punishment. And this is pretty hard. You have to fast 60 days in a row. And everyone's gonna be asking, why are you doing this? Did you have someone had a question? So kafarat al-zihar, actually, I think you're the one who told us last time what zihar was, right? The zihar is the that type of pre-jahili divorce, not divorce, but jahili. They compare the wife to the back of the mother, and then because of that,
Maya,
the
durante
Quran prescribes
mas
like some
nanias
kafara
que
for
vamos
that. I just muted you because I think you had the mic on by mistake. So yeah, they prescribe the zihar, the kafara in the Quran, for doing this pre-Islamic way of not divorce or like making sexual intercourse not allowed with one's wife.
So is this kafara has a name? Like that one is called kafara of zihar. Does it have a name?
I guess you could say kafaratul sometimes say kafaratul som, but it's not really part of the som. It's kafaratul fitr amidan or something like that. I don't think they have like one specific name they always use, to be honest. Or if they do, I don't remember. So sorry, but if I think of something, I'll tell you. Okay. So that's the kafara. And these cases that he mentioned, there will be kafara. Now he's going to mention some cases where there's qada and no kafara, which we already saw some, but he's going to mention more now. So as you can see, the order here, you might, like in your own notes, you might put things together that aren't together here in the text. So you could have like everything together. Might make it easier to understand and see all the examples together. Okay. Next masala is, okay, so this was having intercourse, penetration with either of those two passages, right? Now, what if there's something other kind of intercourse? I mean, I don't know if we still call it intercourse, but they use the same verb here. ومن جامع فيما دون الفرج فأنزل فعليه القضاء ولا كفارة عليه. So someone who has, I mean, intercourse isn't really the right translation, I guess, but let's just say someone who has sexual activity in something other than one of the two passages. So farj, um, farj usually means the vagina specifically, or it could also mean the male private part. But here it's just talking about anything other than those two passages we described. So what are some examples of this that give like so basically it's not real penetration, right? It's penetration like between the thighs. So they say tafkhid is like between the thighs or like on the stomach or or by kissing. So sexual activity by kissing, meaning there's still ejaculation by kissing, which we discussed once before, or ejaculation along with touching, or the other examples I give, we talked about this before, like bestiality or having or penetration with a corpse. I forgot what it's called, but these things are obviously haram, right? It's obviously not allowed. But if this happens, it has the form of sexual intercourse, but it doesn't have the meaning because there won't be a complete, like sexual satisfaction in these things. For that reason, we say there's qada, but no kafara. Sorry, the opposite, right? There's not the form. We don't have the form, but we have the meaning. We don't have the form because there's not real penetration. We don't have the form, but we still have the meaning, which is the ejaculation. They still get that sexual release. So for that reason, it's there's qada, the fast is broken that for that reason, but there's no kafara because the form isn't there, which is penetration, real penetration. Here we don't have real penetration in this masala. And then here's an important rule. وليس في إفساد الصوم في غير رمضان كفارة. There's no kafara in breaking the fast other than Ramadan. And that includes makeup fasts. So someone's doing a makeup fast. So it would be sinful for them to break this makeup fast now by having sexual intercourse or eating or drinking intentionally. But if they did, they would still have to make it up because they haven't made it up now. But there's no kafara. There's no expiation because kafara is only for intentionally breaking the fast during Ramadan, in Ramadan. Only that's the only time that you can have kafara. Because then you're breaking the sanctity of Ramadan. Very important point here. What if somebody didn't start fasting at all in Ramadan? They just decided, it's Ramadan, I'm supposed to fast, I'm not going to do it. Now, what do you think happens then? Feel free to, exercise your legal reasoning.
It's qada but not kafara.
Okay, so why do you think it's qada but not kafara?
Because the kafaras, the sabab is the actual breaking, the intentional
Yeah,
breaking.
that's the right idea. So here it says ifsad as-sawm. You're actually like breaking, corrupting this fast. But if you didn't start fasting in the first place, obviously it's still a major sin. But if somebody didn't start fasting in the first place, then it's still a major sin because they're supposed to be fasting. But they didn't break anything by eating or drinking later that day. They're still violating the sanctity of the time, but they weren't actually in the state of fasting because they didn't make the intention to fast. So in that case, we say, of course, they have to make it up, but no kafara. So that means the only way to have kafara is intentionally breaking a fast. That means someone actually had to start that fast and intentionally breaking it in one of these complete ways of breaking, meaning you have both the form and the meaning of eating or drinking or sex. And if you have this thing, then that's when kafara is due during Ramadan. I mean, while breaking during Ramadan. Of course, you can't make your kafara during Ramadan because you have to fast anyway. You have to make your kafara after Ramadan sometime. Sit fasting 60 days. Okay, now some other things which break the fast. Okay. So, man افتقنا, um, this is basically like a suppository, right? Using like a suppository. So actually, here's where we're going to talk about those things where people said that the ruling should no longer be like this because now we have a different anatomical knowledge. So now we're going to talk about this. But first, let's read the ruling and see what Al-Qudoori is saying, rahimahullah. Then we'll talk about what what might have changed according to various modern ulama. And I'll also send a couple of documents about this because for various medical drug deliveries, the various types of drug delivery and stuff, they have these rulings. Let me just find this file or these few files to look at. And maybe we could even look through one of them quickly just to see. Sorry, one sec. I'm just trying to figure out where I put it. Okay. Um, okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna send a few things. Let me just make sure that's the right one. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'll do these two. They have like everything you could think of. Actually, there's three good documents here. I'll send them all. I'm sending them on Telegram right now. We can look at it later. I mean, we don't have to look at it right now, but we'll first read what Imam Qudoori says. Okay. Oh wait, I think I sent one of the wrong ones. Okay, one of the ones I sent is Arabic, it's the wrong one, but I'll just send this other English one too. Doesn't matter. Okay, so yeah, he said that someone who uses suppository. So at the end, we can see the ruling here is that at the end it breaks. Oh, this does break the fast. This is according to what Imam al-Quduri is saying, and we'll talk about each one after. So first, someone uses suppository, meaning medical medicine inserted via the anal route. Oh, ista'ata. Ista'ata means to what do you call it? What's the word? Like inhaling medication through the nose. So like you would put like inhalers also in this category, or other nasal medications, I guess. Inhaler, nasal, suppository is anal. This is nasal route. Oh, aktara fi udhunay, or puts drops in his ears. So this is one we're going to talk about, right? Um, but according to what he's saying, putting drops in the ears will also break the fast. Um, actually, for the ear thing, even like before modern times, there's khilaf in it. But let's first just understand what Al-Quduri says. So putting drops in the ears, or so I'll just write eardrops, and then أو دعوى جائفة, or treating a stomach wound, meaning it's like an open wound in the stomach, and then inserting medication into the wound, I'll put meds into a wound from outside the body, like it's an open wound, meaning it's actually leading into the stomach, so it's like a pretty serious wound. So a very deep stomach wound it would be. أو عامة بدواء. So أو عامة is like is a very deep head wound, meaning it's actually reaching like the skull, or like what is it, pericranium or something, whatever it's called. So it's actually reaching that, and then someone's inserting medicine directly into the like from the head from outside. So if in these cases, if it reaches the stomach or like the stomach cavity or the brain, then he's saying all these cases breaks the fast. So this one about reaching the stomach cavity or the brain. This is talking about the last two cases, treating the head wound or treating the stomach wound. The other ones are just saying in general it breaks the fast. So using a suppository, using the inhaler, and using eardrops. So the assumption here, the reason why they're saying these things are breaking is because their assumption was that there's some route to okay, taking a suppository, that means there's a route to go through the intestine to the intestines or to the stomach. Taking an inhaler, then that's going to reach the throat, and taking eardrops is going to reach the throat. For the head wound, there's a different reason. It's because that the brain is considered to be like a cavity of the body that we consider. It's like a considered cavity. So medicine reaching the brain will break the fast. And then the stomach is clear, right? It's actually the cavity that we consider for eating and drinking. So for that reason, the fact that you're inserting something directly into it should still break the fast. So first we have khilaf here, but without even getting into modern issues, we do have some khilaf here between Abu Hanifa and Sahibain. Um, that's only in a few of these, in the last ones about the medication, but I don't even want to get into that khilaf. I want to talk about mostly about the modern issues. So first talk about suppository. So if you look at I sent the documents, I'm just gonna quickly, look at what he says. So they say a suppository, according to many modern muftis, it would still break the fast because it's still connected to the digestive system because the intestines are still part of the digestive system. So that's why, as far as I know, most would still consider it that way. Um, and there's also something else I wanted to mention. Because of course there's like different types of medications suppository, and some would are meant to travel, up the intestine, and other ones are more topical and stuff. But that's just a general ruling I'm saying. I was trying to find something. Yeah, so they also say something like it. If you look in one of the documents I sent, it has all these different medical procedures, so like a manual anal examination, because they use lubricant in the anal passage, that would also break the fast, for example. So you get the idea. Like you should look through these documents I sent. There's like good summaries of all this stuff. I'm just giving you like the summary, like a very basic summary right now. The next one, the inhaler. Inhaler, they say that if the thing that the inhaler sprays has a body, and it usually does, right? All those vapor droplets, then it will break the fast because you're inhaling it, and it will generally reach the throat, some of it at least, even if that's not the point of it. But usually it reaches the throat and possibly further down the tract. And the nose, we consider the nose to be something we can, like, it's one of the entrances to the body that we consider for this in this issue, which in this document they're calling it an orifice of consequence. So the nose is an orifice of consequence, the mouth is an orifice of consequence, but the eyes, for example, are not an orifice of consequence. So it doesn't matter what you put in the eyes. So that's another way to explain what we were saying before. Why do the eye drops not break no matter what? It's because they didn't consider the eyes to be an orifice in which we care whether something goes in or not for fasting. But I definitely recommend looking at some of these documents I sent. Um, and you could, they're useful to have, like, people ask you questions. You just go to this document, do a find, and then be like, oh, they're asking me about some vaginal thing. So search vaginal. They're asking about some anal thing, search anal. They're asking about some nasal thing, search nasal, and you'll find all the things in the document. I'm not saying you should just, use this to answer people's questions just like that, but you'll find in the fatwa that today they're a lot of them are following this kind of things. And most of these are based on the work of the former Grand Mufti of Pakistan, Shafi Usmani. But it's become very popular in the Arab world. This particular, like, this is based on his work, so it's become very popular in the Arab world. So you see Hanafis all over the world using these rulings for various medical things, various medications, etc. So the next one, oh, aqtara fi udhunay. So the eardrops I have to talk about. So okay, I'm just gonna give you a summary. They basically say eardrops will only break the fast for someone who has a perforated eardrums, like the membrane is broken, perforated. So otherwise, they say eardrops for most people, it won't break the fast. And even within the madhab, forget about, like, in our time, even within the madhab, you have khilaf on this, about on the eardrops thing. Like, for example, a lot of them said that water would never break the fast if it goes through the ear, but other things might. And so there's like all this detail, but in general now, from what I know, most of the muftis would say eardrops don't break the fast unless someone has a perforated, eardrum, the membrane is broken, so that then then it would reach past there and go to the throat, etc. And the next thing he mentioned was what was it? Dawa ja'ifatan. Okay, so the wounds, these big open wounds, those ones are a little more clear because they're going directly into cavities that we're considering. And I don't know if they talk about those particular ones here because that's not like a intracerebral injection. They do talk about some of these, but I don't think that's exactly what they meant here. Intracerebral injection. They might talk about it in here. I mean, you guys can look at this also and see if you find exactly what they're talking here. Like, oh, here they do talk gastrostomy. Feed medication reaches the stomach, which is a cavity of consequence, via an abdominal puncture, orifice of consequence. So that's similar to what they're saying here, that is a breaking the fast. But I don't see exactly because the head wound thing, even in the pre-modern fiqh, they had like 7 different types of head wounds depending on how deep the wound went. So the one they're saying here, the intracerebral injection, I'm not sure if it would be exactly the same as what Al-Qudoori is talking about. And here they're saying it would not break the fast. So I don't know. We'll have to look into that one more. I haven't actually seen many fatwa on that one, I guess because it's less common. Okay, so there's still quite a few masail here that are related to this, and we only have 10 minutes. Um, so let's do a few more, and then next time we'll come back and talk about some of these documents that we sent because I think they're very helpful to understand this. And you should know that I'm sending these documents, but some of them I would still disagree and say that, you know, we don't need to let our modern understanding of anatomy change these rulings because these rulings are not, they're not telling you, they're not trying to give you a medical judgment. They're just trying to tell you whether the Sharia says the fast is broken or not. But one problem with that is that some of these rulings are clearly based on what the fuqaha understood of anatomy. So then that's something that has to be taken into account. So anyway, let's read like one or two more masail here. وإن أقتر في إحليله لم يفطر عند أبي حنيفة ومحمد وقال أبو يوسف يفطر. So this is talking about the this is talking about for a man, right? So it's the what is it called? The urethra, right? Urethra. Yeah, so this is talking about the man's no wait, it's not urethra, right? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Urethra. That's only the male urethra. So I'm just gonna write that here. You know, the passage for urine, etc. and semen. So if somebody puts drops in the urethra, whether it's like whatever substance it is, then it doesn't break the fast according to Abu Hanifa and Muhammad. Can anyone tell me what's the name for Abu Hanifa and Muhammad together? If we say that.
طرفين.
Say that again?
طرفين.
Yeah, Tarafain, very good. So this is a Tarafain. Okay, no, that's not really even legible, sorry. Okay, so this is Tarafain. So Tarafain said the fast would not break, but Abu Yusuf was saying, oh, actually it would break. Um, this is what's in this copy of Qudoori. Other copies have other copies don't have Muhammad mentioned here. So they just say Abu Hanifa versus Abu Yusuf. And then other books might have Muhammad with Abu Yusuf. So what they say in these kind of scenarios is that qawl of Imam Muhammad is mudtar. We don't know exactly what he said. But anyway, that's not that important right now. But I'm just letting you know that other copies might be different. Your copy might be different than what's on the screen. Okay, so this ikhtilaf, they say, is based on, is there like a passage from the urethra? Meaning, can something go through the urethra back into the digestive system, basically? And what they're saying is that no, that generally cannot happen. Um, and generally, the madhab went with that goal. It doesn't break the fast. This is for a man. For a woman, for inserting something vaginally, it could be different. If it's like an actual substance, like a liquid substance or something, then it could break the fast. But you should look at these documents because they give some detail on that. Actually, yeah, I think in most of these they'll say it won't break the fast. Uh, but if you look in the books, which it'll come up soon, they give some scenarios in which it would break the fast, and then we'd have to see like does that still accepted by the people giving the fatwa today. Okay, that's masala for today. Um, where'd that go? Okay, so وَمَنْ ذَاكَ شَيْئًا. Actually, we'll stop here because now he starts a new thing, which is things that are makruh for the person fasting, makruhat. So I know there's going to be some questions about some of these things that we talked about, but I think everyone try to take a look at those documents and then we'll talk about it together inshallah next week. Any questions before we end? Other questions, I mean. Okay. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما يقربنا إليك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Inshallah, next week we'll try to go back to the in person. Uh, so Jazakumullah khairah, and let me stop this recording now. See if we can. Oh, Naz, can you just I did the cloud recording, so can you just put up the recording whenever it's ready? Jazakumullah khairah.